Welcome to this practitioners discussion session on the world's best safety media campaigns, where we're discussing safety promotion and awareness campaigns from around the world as acknowledged through the International Safety Media Awards program. My name is Barbara Manuzzo and I'm the coordinator for the International Safety Media Awards program. And we're pleased to also have the support of Safe Compact in providing technical assistance for today's discussion and recording. Joining me today is Ian Pike, Professor for Pediatrics, University of British Columbia, Canada, and also Dr. David Sleet, the former Associate Director for Science for the Division of Unintentional Injury Prevention at the National Centre for Injury Prevention, CDC, as well as Joe Schaffner, the Associate Director of Outreach at UAMS University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. Welcome everyone and thank you for speaking with us. I'd like to start by asking each of you about your involvement with the International Media Awards program. We'll start off with you, Ian, first. How have you been involved?
Barbara, my involvement started first as an observer, I think at the World Conference held in Mexico. And I was intrigued by the programs, by the campaigns that were featured. And we had a very nascent organization at the time called the Community Against Preventable Injuries that was going to develop a social marketing campaign to speak with British Columbians in Canada in an effort to shift attitudes and behaviors with respect to serious injuries. And so throughout the following world conferences, we have had the privilege of entering the Safety Media Awards with components of our campaign, and to our great delight, have been award winners as well.
Fabulous. That's really fabulous. Thank you. And Joe, how about you? How have you been involved in the awards?
Yeah, so our first submission was, I believe it was the New Zealand conference in 2012, and that submission was in the print category for teen driving safety as well as all-terrain vehicle safety. We submitted two, and we won in one category and got honorable mention in another, and then we continued to participate in the Finland Safety Media Awards as well as the Bangkok Media Awards, where I was able to attend myself and not only attend the Safety Media Awards but also the conference itself. And so it was a great experience. It was great to see, you know, how other people are dealing with similar issues such as unintentional drowning, you know, in their own neighborhood, and how we can bring that back home to where I live here in Arkansas, where unintentional drowning is a big deal. So it's been a great ride.
Yes, absolutely. How we can bring back the learnings and see how we can adapt them to our own country. What about you, Dr. David Sleet? How have you been involved?
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. I've been involved, I think, from the very beginning with your first one, collaborating with Marcia and you. When I was at CDC, we had done a lot of research, systematic reviews actually, on some of the media campaigns around traffic safety. Yes. So I think I came to the meeting with that in mind. We had also seen lots of media presentations in our travels around the world that we thought were just fabulous.
Yes.
So I had supported the concept and did a little bit of recruiting for media campaigns that I thought might win one of those awards. We have not submitted anything ourselves, but I'm sort of on the sidelines trying to help recruit good programs.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you for that. One of the key features of a good safety media campaign is, of course, the impact. And through the awards, we've seen some campaigns from around the world that are incredibly powerful, and their evaluation also shows too that they result in measurable behavior change. Now, if we break that down, so let's break that down. what is the science behind the safety media campaigns leading to behavior change, and how do we know if they work? Joe, would you like to start us off on that, please?
So I would give a lot of it to the social sciences, things like the social learning theories, social cognitive theory. Basically, people learn from watching others. They mimic others, what others do. That's why Instagram influencers, social media influencers have such a big impact on their following, and they have such popularity right now because they actually do influence other people's behavior and change behavior.
Yes.
Other than that, I would say evaluation feedback is crucial. Setting up focus groups, doing the pre and post evaluations, getting that information, and constantly improving the material to where it actually reaches the intended audience. Because if you don't get that feedback, then you're not hearing from your audience, and you're potentially missing these high points that could otherwise land home.
And what about yourself, Dr. Ian Pike? Um, how, what would you like to add to that about the science behind the safety media campaigns leading to behavior change, and how do we know that they actually work?
Well, I think I would echo what Joseph has said. The science behind these types of campaigns, I think, is based in behavioral science, in social behavioral, social cognitive sciences. We have based our campaign in the health action process approach, and our campaign is particularly looking at people's intentions and concrete planning to do things differently based upon knowledge or messaging or influencing that has occurred out of our campaign. So I think that the idea is that people have knowledge, they use that knowledge to sort of influence their behaviors. And if we can, at that point where they're planning to behave or in the moment of risk, as we say,
Yes.
if we can alter their intentions and their planning and their actions, then that's the sort of piece of the theoretical model that we're going after. I think it's also very important to say that these campaigns are only successful if they are iteratively built with the target audience. I think you can't dream up a good idea and expect people to sort of cotton onto it unless you have built that inner conversation with them. And in that regard, we sort of take a lesson from commercial marketing. Nike doesn't build runners and then try to sell them. They ask what the customer would like in a runner, and then they make that and sell it to them based upon what they were told. The same is true of social marketing campaigns in our view. And it's what we are seeing having some measure of success in the province, is that we are in a constant iterative conversation with our target population. They advise on what they would respond to. We translate that into messages, into creative, into TV, social media, ambient, guerrilla, all of the strategies and channels that we can, but it is clearly based upon what the audience have said that they would respond to. And of course, what we see when we get that right, what we see is alterations in the leading indicators in terms of attention to the campaign, in terms of shifts in knowledge and attitudes. And ultimately, we see changes in our outcome, which is a reduction in the serious injuries in our province.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fabulous. Yes, that's gold. So I'll come back to you for further tips in a moment, Dr. Ian Pike. Dr. David Sleet, have you got anything to add to what the two previous presenters have said about the science behind the safety media campaigns leading to behaviour change, and how do we know that they work?
Sure. I think overall, the evidence is mixed. And depending on the kinds of methods that a program uses to deliver the media, depending on the theory that is used, if there is a theory, and there should be, and depending on the kind of evaluation that is used to measure change. Now, these changes can be in a variety of areas. You can be looking for instance, attitude change towards a behavior. You can also, as Ian mentioned, intentions to change your behavior, or you can actually try to measure behavior itself, which is the most difficult thing to achieve. I think especially when the media campaigns are short in duration, if they are using fear approaches only, or if they're not exposing the target group appropriately. So I think there are a lot of limitations to this, and it can be successful, but it needs to contain a number of elements that we've found to be successful.
Yes, yes. So to finish off, I will ask each of you to share a key tip for the practitioners that are undertaking safety media campaigns. So we'll start off with you, Dr. Ian Pike. A key tip for practitioners that are undertaking safety media campaigns, please.
Yeah, Barbara, I think I sort of alluded it in the question previously. My key tip is to really, really understand what your audience will respond to. I think that going into the development of our campaign, we had viewed many, many other examples from many other jurisdictions from around the world, and many of those used a tactic where they appeal to people's deep emotions about injury and loss and grieving and blood and guts, if I can call it that.
Yes.
We learned from conversing with our target population that in fact they said, if you take us to that place, which they called the dark place,
yes,
we're not going to respond. We might look at it once, but it will be so objectionable to us, we won't look at it in the long run. So in order to get our attention, treat us as intelligent individuals who know what to do, who need a reminder in the time and place when risk is highest. So for us, that was a huge eye-opener, and it has caused our campaign to take a different direction than I think we initially anticipated. So my tip is, don't rely upon what you think is right based upon what others are doing. Rely upon the evidence given to you by the target audience that you're trying to influence, and continue that conversation iteratively over the period that your campaign evolves, and keep that conversation alive, because it is that input that will help you keep your campaign relevant.
Oh, excellent. Absolutely superb tips. And what about yourself, Joe? Would you like to share with us a key tip that you've learned yourself that you could share with the practitioners that are undertaking safety media campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
In my experience, when you're creating material, whether it be print material, social media, whatever, when you put stuff out there in the world, sometimes best practices change, and you need to be able to either recreate the wheel or update, existing material. So I would say, in order to create enduring material on the front end, make sure it's fluid and set up in the original design documents or whatever, that it's very much able to be edited and adjusted as best practices change. For example, one of our submissions to the International Safety Media Award was a children's book, and we started that process in 2016. And one of the recommendations in the book was for a child to remain in a car seat rear facing until 2 years of age. Well, from that point to now, the best practices have changed to the child needs to stay rear facing in the back seat as long as the seat allows.
Yes.
So now we have to consider the thousands of books that we've put out in the public, but also going forward, we have to edit the book, go back to the print press, and kind of adjust. If we want to stay with the same product, with the same campaign, we still see it as a viable injury prevention mechanism, then we need to adjust and make sure the message is still accurate, up to date, and on point. So I would say just think about, when you create the material, make sure it's flexible enough that you can edit it and keep it relevant as things change and improve.
Absolutely, yes. A fabulous tip there. Thank you for that. What about yourself, David? Have you got a key tip for practitioners that are undertaking safety media campaigns?
I actually
Please.
have a number of tips.
Yes.
And these are coming from our own research and systematic reviews, mostly
Yes.
in traffic injury prevention, but I think they generalize to other campaigns as well. And the first is to make sure that your campaign has a theoretical foundation. Social cognitive theory could be used, stages of change. It should have a theory behind it and a theory that is evidence-based. The second is to make sure that you have high exposure, meaning a lot of messages very frequently
Yes.
and in the right channel that, as Ian said, that your audience is using to get their information.
Yes.
The third one is to emphasize a behavior in your message.
Yes.
If they don't have a message that helps them take an action, they probably won't know what to do with your message.
Yes.
Four-sided fencing might be an example. You could do a campaign around the dangers of drowning for children, but never suggest a behavior that would prevent it, like make sure you have four-sided fencing around your pool.
Yes.
A fourth is something Ian also mentioned in his research, which is fear alone does not work. It will raise emotion, and if you don't have a solution to that emotion to reduce it, it will probably actually increase anxiety in the wrong direction. And finally, what we've learned from our road safety media campaigns is if it's around a law or policy, you have to marry that message along with enforcement. So
Yes.
to increase enforcement alongside of changing behavior can really make a difference.
Barbara,
Great.
could I add to that? I think I want to underscore David's important point about reaching a level of saturation, being
Yes.
able to speak with sufficient, as the advertisers say, gross rating points. If you
Yes.
don't have GRPs sufficiently high to have impact in your audience, then
Yes.
really, if you're spending money on something that's sub-GRP critical level, you're wasting money. You should really spend that elsewhere in injury prevention. But if you have sufficient resources that you can exceed those GRPs, it's critical that you meet those minimum thresholds because that's how advertising works. It's about saturation.
One additional thing we found in research that had been done that did not find any change in behavior was that you can't simply rely on PSAs or public service announcements. So often these PSAs are run in the middle of the night. And as in Ian's point, you don't have any exposure at all because those people you want to change are not watching television at 2 in the morning. So consider paid advertising, which Australia has always used and has been very successful. And the US has just started using in their advertising campaigns for public health. It's expensive, but if you use PSAs, you can never be sure when it's going to be aired and how much exposure you get.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
However,
absolutely.
what's happened in our experience is when you do purchase paid advertising time and you're hitting your target audience at prime time.
Yes.
The curious addition that we've experienced is we've leveraged a ton of extra PSA time. So what might have been low grade has actually been added to as well. So, you know, the high quality production, the paid for advertising just only ensures further exposure through PSA. TV
Yes.
stations were more than willing to give their customers additional time.
Yes, 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 we've found that as well. Yes, like buy one, get two free, or pay for two, get one free, or and the stations were quite happy to support this goodwill, this campaign that was for the benefit of all the community. Absolutely, yes, yes. Thank you for sharing those great tips. Well, I'd like to thank Ian, David, and Joe. It has been great to hear from each of you about how we can use the evidence-based approaches in safety media to generate real behaviour change. I also wanted to remind everyone before we finish off, just as a reminder, that due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Safety 2020 conference has been postponed until November 2022, with the virtual global event to take place in the meantime on the 22nd to the 26th of March 2021. So we're hoping that we'll see all of you online for that. And the winners of the 2020 International Safety Media Awards will be announced at this March 2021 global event. So stay tuned for information around this time. And thanks again for joining us for this discussion about some of the world's best safety medias recognised by the International Safety Media Awards program. And to all our global safety colleagues, as always, we wish you success in improving safety outcomes for our community. Thank you.